Hello, everyone. This is writer and director Patrick Reagan. I wrote and directed this film, An Unfriendly Game, and this is the little audio commentary. This is a little Angry Kitten Studios logo I did. I also have a new one that was designed for my book writing for Angry Kitten Media, and I decided to use that, as kind of a throwback to the old MGM spoof ones that I used to do. This is my second film to use the Fanatic Films after Zelda. I use that for my fan-made, unauthorized fan feature films. I decided to use the Ikana Canyon theme music here because I thought that was kind of creepy. Good old classic opening credits. I wish some more movies would have some more of that. And this is my basement, in my current home at Colorado. I'm living with my parents right now, and that's their wine rack. I just put the cartridge there for this, and that's a lot of my other crap that I have there because I'm still adjusting to the Colorado life, and so I have a lot of crap that I love. And to collect, and right here, this is kind of like a little foreshadowing. That's like the moon children around the tree, and then the moon from Majora's Mask. That's supposed to look like the Ben statue, but it doesn't have the hat intentionally because it's supposed to look like Ben, the actual kid. And of course, that's the artwork that looks like Majora's Mask. And down there, that little golden thing, that's a little puzzle thing that my Uncle Pete 3D printed for Christmas 2 years ago. It's kind of like a little maze where you have to follow that in order to open it. Had like $40 of cash, which I think I already spent. That's, of course, our hot water heater. And that's my parents' wine rack. This is supposed to imply that this is part of the old man's house, and that's the old man who turned on the light. I said in September 2010, just like the original creepypasta had that classic sound of the dawn of the first day kind of stuff. This here is Denver University. I actually worked here not too long ago. That was the job I had the most. Now I have a new job at Aero Electronics, which is much better. Of course, that's me. That's Taylor. And in that shot where Taylor was talking, you may notice a camera wobble. You'll notice this in the bloopers and behind the scenes, but the phone actually fell, and I had to color correct the footage, and that's Illusion of Gaia. I plan on doing an adaptation of that one day. I really want to do an adaptation of that. Maybe I can do it, legitimately. Yeah, of course, I had them have the Super Smash Brothers game in there as homage, because that was how it was in the original creepypasta, that he only had Super Smash Brothers with the N64. Of course, I'm wearing a Jaws t-shirt. This is just a picture I found online, and this whole little montage where they have, the music was inspired by something I saw in another adaptation of this. I was lucky to get that video game of Conker's Bad Fur Day for just like $20-something back in 2018. Shadow Man, that's a classic. I want to do an adaptation of that, whether it's a fan film or not. I definitely want to adapt Shadow Man. GoldenEye, I got that with a gift card back in 2016. Truly a classic. And I love Perfect Dark as well. In real life, if you were to get those games for those prices at a garage sale, that would be a steal. That's, of course, our neighborhood in Littleton. And, of course, a little establishing, before they come to the old man, just have them talking about, what they found and everything, and acknowledging that's quite a steal. We have a bit of a cul-de-sac. And that's me doubling for the old man to give, an establishing shot. And so that's a green screen scene. And I had to add that tree for the continuity. And you'll notice in a little bit that the footage kind of gets a little bit out of focus. I don't know why it did that, but that was unfortunately something we couldn't fix. Maybe the ghost of Ben was haunting the camera, I don't know. It's Mike Keeler. He's done a few professional stuff, and he's also done some shows, some actual performances. That was shot on my phone, by the way, but some performances similar, of Westerns. Yeah, I added that B-roll shot of him showing him the game, so that way the old man knew what kind of game he was getting. And that's me doubling for him again. That's our actual garage, which we actually use for my film Within the Dark House. And it watches. That's, of course, the ink blot kind of stuff, as mentioned in the creepypasta. He had to have some stuff on top of it because it was getting pretty windy around that time. It was pretty cold, too. That was the end of January, but thankfully it wasn't snowing anymore. Dramatic zooms, one of my favorite things I like to do in a lot of my films. And that's kind of mirrored if you look closely, but that was the only thing we could do. So he's looking at the game because, unfortunately, you can't always get these little nuanced details in an adaptation. But as it was in the creepypasta, he was subconsciously hoping he would get that game. And so that's why he looks at it that way. Because, and then my character, Tyler, gave that weird look because the way the old man worded that was kind of unsettling to him. And Mike Keeler, we filmed him at Columbine because my parents were busy doing something, so he couldn't come back to the house to film. And that's supposed to be, he says goodbye, Ben, but it sounds like goodbye then. This, I was driving away from Target, and I just put my phone on the dashboard, and I was thankful to get a red light there. Now I had an establishing shot because I didn't want to just have them in the car where still, otherwise it would look really phony, so that's why I had to imply that they're at a gas station. And these are shot separately each. And that was shot at my garage at my workplace. My lips were really chapped too, you can see. Like Taylor, he shot at our neighborhood. I'm shot at the gas station, so he shot these separately. And right now he's thinking about what the old man said because he has a nagging doubt that he said something different. Which is another part of the creepypasta. And my character's trying to rationalize it that maybe he just wasn't talking coherently. It's like Tyler's kind of a little bit of the voice of reason. And I wanted to add more build up where Alex doesn't automatically think things are cursed. And that's something I'll talk about a little later when it comes. And that building's some kind of library. I used to deliver mail there whenever I worked there. I think it's called Mary Reed. And of course, that cartridge, I talk about this in behind the scenes, but if you're curious as to what that cartridge is, I can't remember what it was, but it was just some kind of cheapo sports game that was only like, $5 I got at Game Exchange when I was in Hattiesburg. So it's not anything valuable, just a cheapo $5 sports game. And here I add that superimposing because I was originally just going to cut to the old man, which is something other short films have done, but I decided, and even the Cursed Game did, my previous short film attempt, but I decided to have it more like he was looking at it and seeing the old man in his vision. And I shot myself separately here. This was in December of 2025. And now, of course, that's my actual file, and that's the actual footage, that I put on that TV with the Mac. But that file, I played on my Switch, the Switch N64 emulation stuff, and I named my character Ben specifically because of that. And once I got to Stone Tower, I filmed that, so that way we had that as an establishing shot. Down there you can see a lot of my DVDs, and I put The Dark Knight because The Dark Knight was very popular at the time. And this is a weird cloud formation I took a photo of when I left the gym. This is a more foreshadowing in which he sees that they're calling him Ben. Because one thing a lot of short films do, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but in a lot of short films they have that, and then they have him just decide to delete the Ben file. I wanted to establish, give more establishment without going too long. So here, after playing for a while, they're talking about the Ben file, and I'm being the voice of reason. Tyler, he's trying to tell Alex about how, he should just delete the Ben file, but Alex doesn't want to because he has respect. And so in a little bit, there's a montage, and that's what eventually builds up to him deciding to delete it because he sees himself being called Ben more than once, pretty much. And also, that little Egyptian thing in the background, I'd hope I could put that in the Illusion of Gaia movie. That's some old thing that we got from a family member. And here I love this montage, especially because I added the Dawn of the Final Day music at Termina. Like somebody in a comment, pointed out the best way that the juxtaposition with the music is kind of like acting like everything's okay when it really isn't. And here in the montage, it shows him finishing Woodfall, shows him talking to Romani, saying that he's still being called Ben. So it's adding some more build up, to hints that he's being called Ben more than once. And that's why he gets annoyed with it, as opposed to most short film adaptations that have him do it after just like the second time and everything. Again, nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to do something a little different. And here he's remembering what Tyler said, so he's deciding to delete the Ben file. And that was my hand just touching the N64. I can't use the reset anymore because it's really sticky, but the N64 still works. I've just recently played Shadow Man with it. And here, I basically took a picture and edited this with PowerPoint, but there's no way I could make it look like there's just nothing. So that's why I just added the white space. But it still gets the point across that he's now being called nothing. And here, there's some more build up here where he's not thinking anything supernatural about it. He's just thinking, okay, this is weird. Like he has a creepy feeling in the back of his mind, but he's trying to rationalize it. There's him doing homework. And, there's a little blooper where my cat, my cat was really wanting to be friends with him, which is interesting. I guess my cat has gotten older, so she's not as mean as she used to be, and she's very welcoming to new people. And yes, my N64 is pretty dusty. I've dusted it, but I do need to dust my basement quite a bit. And here, this is me playing on the final day, so I get this because that is another thing of the creepypastas. He's trying to finish Snowhead, and so that's why he goes to do the fourth day glitch, and that's when things go to hell in a handbasket. It's like I didn't want it to go on too long, but I wanted to give a montage to imply the passage of time with how many times he's being called Ben leading up to, eventually this and everything. So this, I just had the camera position. Unfortunately, as much as I tried to darken some shots, I couldn't get rid of my reflection in certain things. So that is kind of an unfortunate little drawback. And this is also kind of an improvement on my original short film, The Curse Game, which is on this DVD. Where because I had better technology with my Macintosh and with using iMovie instead of Windows Movie Maker. Now, I do think this went on a little too long, but at least add some level of build up, with everything. And of course, now he's trying to fourth day glitch. And so I basically just got some footage on YouTube of the fourth day glitch in action so that way I could get the point across. And it does use a lot of footage, but it kind of had to require a lot of footage for like Jedusible's gameplay and Cleverbots. Because there are other film adaptations of this story as well. My favorite being The Haunting of Ben. There's, a few other ones. There's one I cannot find on YouTube I used to watch a lot. I just remember it had music from Freddy Krueger in it. There's another one I watched in 2020 that was kind of cut short. Like they said they were going to have a climax with the Moon Children cult that never got to full fruition. I still can't find that one. And that's taken from Nexpo's video because Nexpo did kind of like a cinematic reenactment / retelling of the story. And I think this is just footage of me. Actually, I think this is from the Nexpo footage, but I put in the, Majora's boss fight arena music / final hours music. Because he's supposed to be in the Majora boss battle with Skull Kid, but there was no way I could find a way to fake that footage. And I think this adds some tension because it adds a little bit of build-up where you don't know if it's, like, at first you think maybe something's cursed, or maybe you think something's glitched. And then it comes to the point that it seems like there's something seriously wrong. And I always remember this because my first introduction to the story was when my old neighbor Brandon from high school told me that he got a game like this from an old man. Then he said he got it from some kind of store, and he mentioned seeing the weird stuff. And then I read about it and found about the creepypasta. And he said he destroyed the cartridge because he didn't know whether it was haunted or not. He was just disturbed by it. And here, this is just footage of me playing like the game to make it look like he's alone, and you could hear the happy mask, laugh. But as for my old friend Brandon, I don't know if he was lying or if he got an actual hacked cartridge or if he was just exaggerating. And of course, this is part of the creepypasta too, where he tries to drown himself, and then the Ben statue comes, and that's very important. But I don't know, especially because Brandon, I don't know if he's lying or not, but he did become a bit of a jackass later. I think he's trying to get his life turned around. I really hope he does. I don't know how he's been. And of course, he's getting the footage recorded on his laptop, and this is supposed to imply that he's not looking at the screen, and that happened while he had it paused. But yeah, I still don't know if Brandon was just lying to me or if he got some kind of hacked cartridge that was designed like the creepypasta. And this is where we get the Jadu Sable footage, because that's where the Jadu Sable footage actually starts in the creepypasta. At first he was just telling what happened, and then this is when he started recording according to the creepypasta. And this is when it becomes a little clear that it has to be more than just a glitch. Something is really off. Oh, and also, the footage of Alex playing, that's in my bedroom, because we originally had the TV there, but we moved it, and we didn't want to move it back, so we had him just looking at the computer, which you can see in the behind-the-scenes stuff. And then the shots where you see him from behind the head with the TV in front of him, that was basically shot in the main room for, editing purposes, where I just had my Macintosh laptop plugged into the HDMI port. And this creepypasta was really unique because it tricked a lot of people, myself included, into thinking it was real because it had actual footage and everything like that. And one of the things I hate about most creepypastas that try to mimic this is it's like the childish version of trying to be edgy and scary. It's like, so much blood, so much gore, it looks so realistic, so hyper realistic, it looked like you could touch it. It's like, come on, people. Some of them, they really creeped you out when you were kids, like Squidward's suicide. But then as you got older and looked past the scariness, you started to realize how poorly written some of them were. Like Jeff the Killer. Like, Jeff the Killer used to be the mascot for creepypasta, and he's been demoted to trollpasta. With this, what you have is, yes, some people probably would have thought it was far-fetched and questioned if it was real or not. But the stuff that happened in this, it wasn't like gore that was so realistic it looked like you could touch it. It's more like the creepy stuff happened within the confines of the Nintendo 64's, like within the confines of the hardware's limitations. Of course, he's back in the clock tower, facing off with Skull Kid, with the backwards Icona Canyon music, which I also use for Disc 1 on this DVD, the Disc 1 menu. It's the moon. And this game itself, just like the Majora's Mask game itself, is truly a work of art. It really is. If I ever got the chance, I'd probably do a stop-motion miniseries based on Ocarina and Majora. I want to do a film adaptation of Illusion of Gaia. Like, I would think of doing it as a fan film, as a backup, but I really want to do it as an actual legit production. And I want to do an adaptation of Shadow Man, the video game. It's just, I don't know if it would be a real production or a fan film. And this is actually my first feature-length adaptation of a creepypasta, and the original short film was my first adaptation of creepypasta. I did other creepypasta short films like Abandoned by Disney, Room Zero, Candle Code Tales from the Laughingstock, and The Condemned House. I'm actually going to do a remake of The Condemned House to make it more true to the original creepypasta. And I definitely have some stuff to say about that creepypasta Condemned House. Like, I'm not sure if that one was real or not. But it's just, there's just something about knowing more about that creepypasta was just something about that was kind of sketchy. And this, I hope this didn't trick a lot of people when they watched it, but that chugging is definitely supposed to happen. And this is something that my old neighbor Brandon, also told me about. And, that's why I decided to look it up online and found out about the creepypasta. So, yeah, that's why I'm like, I mean, he is a lot of things, but he never really seemed like the kind of person who would lie to me. Though you never know. I don't know if he actually got a hacked cartridge that was designed to be like this, or if he was just making up stories. I love how I edited a lot of this, so instead of just cutting between him and the footage like in my original attempt, you also had a mixture of like this, where he's looking at the TV. Like with this, it's really just long shots of him looking at the footage, and I edited it accordingly, which you'll see. And this your turn thing, when Brandon told me about that, in the your turn file, that definitely sent shivers down my spine. Now, of course, you have this, and the Skull Kid laughing. I love these little upward angle kind of shots. Like, I shot those with my phone, so I had to color correct them, which I also talk about in the behind the scenes documentary. And here, a lot of fan films don't do this, but it's supposed to be implied that this is the entire thing, and he hits reset, so that's why I added in the B-roll footage of him hitting reset, and that was my hand. Now, of course, the Ben file's back. Now, I think this is also my very first feature-length movie to be an all-male cast. Because with the exception of seeing Romani, like, there's no female characters in this movie, very much like The Thing or Bad Taste. Not sad to have this little addition where he's likely hallucinating this, and this is actually loosely inspired by a dream I had, or some kind of hallucination I had. Like, I remember back in my old house when I was like 5 years old, I remember looking in my closet and I got spooked because I hallucinated what looked like a giant hopper from A Bug's Life, standing and giving me this like creepy smirk. And I remember hearing like some kind of drum music a little bit, kind of similar to the stats menu in Mario Party 2. And then I turned around to face this giant teddy bear. Oh, and this was B-roll footage that I shot, so that way we established that we were getting out of the car. But anyway, I stared at the teddy bear because the giant hopper in my closet was scaring me. And due to my eyes adjusting, it looked like the teddy bear was slightly moving. That also creeped me out, but I found that to be much less creepy than the giant hopper in my closet. And I plan on having something similar to that in another film, but that is kind of an homage to that dream, that hallucination I had whenever I was like 3 or 5. Sorry about that, my mouth keeps getting so dry. And yes, that's green screen in there. There's nothing more we could do. And of course, some short films will have them come back, and that's when they see the neighbor. But I wanted to be more like the creepypasta where they go back there first, and then he comes back the next day to talk to the neighbor. And I love this little edit where he puts his hand there and it cuts. That was a pretty good edit that I did. And this is accurate because in the creepypasta, he said he had a buddy named Tyler with him. That's the only time Tyler is mentioned, but I decided to change it to have Tyler be an integral part of the story, so that way it's not just him by himself the entire time. And it's implied that Tyler's the one who gave him the N64. Where in the creepypasta is just an unspecified friend. And this is day for night footage, and I love the music that I use in this. This is like creepypasta kind of music that they put in a lot of creepypasta videos. And this is just my hallway. And this close-up footage is homage to both The Shining and, certain in the cutscene in Majora's Mask whenever Link is turned into a Deku. In the story, it mentioned he was being followed by the statue, but I changed it to this, but he still calls the statue Ben, and I had it echoing to make it more dramatic, as you'll see in a little bit. But that is still, pretty accurate to what happened in the creepypasta. Now, of course, he goes back to try to reach the old man again, like in just desperation. This is when he sees the neighbor, who I always claim is played by Smith Allen. Some of y'all may have already figured this out, but if you haven't, just be serious for once. That's obviously me. Smith Allen is a joke because when somebody plays a character or directs a film and they don't want their name associated with it, they use a fake name that has the title of Alan Smithy. So I made up this fake actor for whenever I do stuff like that named Smith Allen. And that's basically just meant to be like a subtle nod the hat joke when it comes to the Alan Smithies. Like, basically, it's a joke for film nerds. And here I intentionally made the neighbor have a hat and have a few nervous tics for reasons I don't want to get into, because I'm trying to hint something about the neighbor, because I always found the neighbor to be really suspicious, and so I wanted to, like, I had my own little thing, because I originally wanted to put in stuff like the Moon Cult and the Luna Prophecy, but in all honesty, I know I'm not the only one to say this, but the story did get a little bit ridiculous. Whenever Jadu Sable revisited in 2020, he should have just left it at the haunted cartridge arc. So I kind of took on my own spin, but again, I don't want to give too much away because I want people to theorize it. And here he is supposed to be acting a little weird, when telling the story. He has a few nervous tics and everything like that. I love these upward angles. And this next bit of music that's playing, that plays frequently and even plays in the trailer, I can't remember. Like, I don't know what the name of the music is. I just know it's some 90s stock music. And James Rolfe used it in his film The Head Incident, the original 51-minute version. That's where I got the music from. I don't know if where that stock music came from, but it's very likely 90s stock music. I really do like it, though. I just could never find out what it was or where it's from. Like, I don't even know if it was internet stock music or stock music from a CD. Because, the internet existed in 1999 when James Rolfe made that short film, but it wasn't as big as it was today. And, of course, here, Ben has saved at the owl statue, which is another creepy thing. Because it's as if he's sentient in the game itself. I remember in some of my original ideas, especially in the Cursed game, I kind of made the supernatural stuff a little bit more obvious. Here, I wanted to make it more subtle and ambiguous as to whether it's actually haunted or whether it's like a hack kind of thing from the old man. Now, I've regained some more faith in independent films because Markiplier did the Iron Lung movie, which is fantastic. I watched it twice, and on this day, February 14th, when I'm doing this, I recently watched it a second time. And I am so glad he's putting it on physical media. We need to keep physical media alive. I hate that people want to phase out physical media. It's like certain people just seem to be too lazy to do something as simple as just put a disc in the disc player or something. It's like, come on, people. Not to mention, hopefully the Iron Lung movie will have a lot of bonus features. Because I'm definitely hoping to keep physical media alive, especially for my films like Illusion of Gaia, the Mind Worms remake. And I'm also getting into publishing books. You may have seen on my YouTube channel, close up of the eyes, I love doing that, but I love that shot, by the way. But, I did a rewrite of Unholy Land. I'm doing rewrites of Mind Worms. Because I decided to immortalize my stories, I would write books, to keep them alive in case I can't get every project made into a movie. But yeah, I highly recommend watching Iron Lung, and it gives me faith if I ever do an adaptation of Shadow Man and Illusion of Gaia. Like, they would both be polar opposites, of course. Illusion of Gaia is more family friendly, and but has its dark moments. Shadow Man is really, really dark and unpleasant, and it would actually work if I did with Markiplier, with the same kind of reduction value he did for Iron Lung. I love how I edited this. It actually works pretty nicely. I mean, it's not perfect, but I love how I edited between this shot and the close-up of the game footage. This is the only flaw I think this creepypasta had, is it's supposed to be implied that he's going to Woodfall and spotted those characters by accident, but here, the way it was done, it looked a little too intentional to me. Like, that's kind of the only flaw I have with this footage in the creepypasta, is I wish that they could have made that look a little less intentional. And what I was saying earlier is when it came to creepypasta, I tried to rip this off. The unfortunate thing is whenever something becomes popular, other people try to imitate it. That's just a constant. You had people trying to imitate The Exorcist in the 70s. In the 80s, people tried to mimic Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Gremlins. In the early 2000s, in the 90s, people tried to imitate Tim Burton's Batman. And then later you had people trying to mimic The Dark Knight and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And you could say that this creepypasta has its cliches, but it kind of established the cliches. It was the first of its kind, and it kind of set the bar so high that others just couldn't, reach it, pretty much. But yeah, that thing of something becoming so influential that other people try to mimic it, that's just a constant. I mean, that's why a lot of people have mixed feelings about Ren and Stimpy, because Ren and Stimpy influence a lot of really shitty cartoons, but a lot of great cartoons like Hey Arnold and Avatar The Last Airbender would not exist if it wasn't for Ren and Stimpy's influence. Yeah, that's kind of how Mysterious Mr. Enter put it, is he didn't necessarily care for the original Ren and Stimpy show, but he still respects it. And here, this is another nuanced detail where it was mentioned in the creepypasta. A lot of people tend to miss this, that he was trying to climb on the horse but couldn't, and that's when he came to the conclusion that Epona was pointing him in some direction. So that's another thing I wanted to kind of go the extra mile with, was getting a lot of these little nuanced details that most adaptations usually leave out. Especially because I have the Cleverbot thing, which is another thing that most adaptations leave out. And I understand why. It is difficult to translate. And of course I got footage of the controllers for certain shots. It's where he sees the Ben statue. And I also have some stuff that parallels the original short film, such as me playing as the neighbor, because I pretty much played... Well, yeah, I literally played every character in the original short film. Pretty much is an understatement for that. This, of course, is supposed to be unusual because Zoras can breathe underwater, and so the fact that he drowned is supposed to be really, really unusual, obviously. Now, of course, you come to the title drop in a little bit where you see the files, which confirms how Ben died. Ben drowned. And of course, I had added in Medwin Goodall's Behold the Darkness, which was used in the Haunting of Ben short film. The original reason why I used the title An Unfriendly Game was because I didn't know that the creepypasta was called Ben Drowned. I just thought it was like the Haunted Majora's Mask thing. But I kept with the title because I wanted it to stand out and be unique, since there are so many other Ben Drowned fan films. And this is supposed to be like a creepy stop-motion dream sequence similar to the works of David Lynch or Jan Svankmajer. And I use those clouded patterns because that's supposed to be Ben's childhood bedroom. And I was going to have 4 moon children like in the creepypasta, but I didn't have the time to do it, so I had just one moon child with the Skull Kid mask. I mean, the Majora's Mask, Skull Kid is in there. And there are some things that are supposed to be interpreted like that little glass bottle next to the Happy Mask salesman. I just don't want to give too much away. And I shot the stuff with him faceless without the mask first, and that's supposed to be him made into an elegy statue. And of course the moon, that's supposed to be interpreted. But yeah, that's another thing that most that most film adaptations leave out that I wanted to put in was that nightmare sequence. It's not exactly how it is in the creepypasta, but it kind of gets the point across. Here, this is 3 weeks later because it's really been getting to Alex's head and he's been not going into his classes. And here I shot this at the gas station because I didn't want to risk getting a parking ticket, because since obviously I don't work at DU anymore, so I can't park there unless I do the $2 pay parking kind of thing. And that campus is okay, but it's not the USM campus. I still love the USM campus and feel like the DU campus doesn't have as much heart or soul. Not to mention some of the people at the DU campus are just assholes, really. And of course, that door's not closed all the way because it can't really close all the way. That's the hallway, of course, in the basement. And you may have noticed those little plastic, carton bottles during that dream sequence with Ben in the hallway. That's because I unfortunately have moderate to severe sleep apnea now, and I have to use a CPAP, so I use distilled water for the humidifier portion. You probably hear my cat. Now, of course, is Tyler trying to get Alex's attention, which is told in a non-linear thing later, because Alex is just freaked out at this point, to the point that he won't leave his dorm. I use this kind of stock music, from SpongeBob. It's not originally from SpongeBob, but that kind of stock music has been, redubbed as being SpongeBob music at this point because it was made popular in SpongeBob. And this was just shot in a portion of my house, but it's Tyler talking to the, person at the dorm desk trying to get Alex's attention. This is where he gets the thumb drive because that's where it has Alex's notes. And what you have is, one of the interesting things is this is when Ben has hijacked all of Alex's notes and posts that footage, and so you never get to see how Alex, reacted to the next bit of footage that we see. And so that's what I'm trying to capture here, is that air of mystery, pretty much. I'm wearing my lucky jacket in that shot. My lucky blue jacket that's appeared in a lot of my films. Though I don't think I ever wore it in the original Curse Game short film. Maybe I did. That's just shot on my Macintosh laptop. And that's supposed to be Tyler reading the notes. And of course this is a bit of foreshadowing because it says it's from Jadu Sable's roommate. But of course Jadu Sable reveals that he never had a roommate, so this is Ben having hijacked everything of his. Because whenever I wrote the script, I did write a lot of stuff verbatim, so that way I had a little guide and everything. I have 2 cats with me right now. My cat Josie's in my lap. My brother's cat is sleeping on the couch. He's plump and fluffy, looks like a lion. He has some allergies, so you might hear his nose whistling a few times. I don't have much to say about that. Sorry I was kind of quiet for a little bit. I want to try to keep talking to try to avoid so many quiet moments. And I even have a glass of water because I know talking this much is definitely going to quench my thirst a bit. I had to color correct that as well. I was thinking another really good creepypasta movie that's pretty official that I have on DVD as a Christmas gift that I got recently is The Living Dark Story of Ted the Caver. That's a really good one. In fact, some people claim that Ted the Caver was the first creepypasta. In my opinion, I think it's really debatable as to what could count as the first creepypasta. Because I mean, you could say that, fairy tales which were told by oral tradition and rewrote over time could be counted as the first creepypastas. We just didn't have that name coined yet. So I think the first creepypasta could be kind of debatable. Yeah, I talk about this in the behind the scenes. But back in 2011, when I was playing Majora's Mask, I put in the cartridge, and I noticed that my file was deleted, which I thought was weird, but I felt, it's not a big deal because I was going to delete it anyway, or start over. Actually, it's not that I was going to delete it, it's just I didn't get I didn't get far at all in that file, so I said, not a big deal. But then some weird shit happened, because in that opening cutscene, after Link is being dragged from the Skull Kid on Epona, Link just dies, and then he comes back, and then he dies when he gets healed by the fairy, and literally every item in my inventory was an ocarina. That sent chills down my spine because I knew of the Ben Drown story, and so I took out the cartridge and wiped the inside lightly with a Q-tip, and when I put it back in, my file was back and everything went to normal. This always gives me anxiety, but that is supposed to happen, but anyway, I researched more online. At first I thought Ben was real and that he haunted my Majora's Mask game. But then I found out that the whole multi-ocarina thing is a common glitch where it's not when the cartridge is tilted, but it's when you don't put the cartridge in all the way, and so it's not processing the information properly. But I remember that creeped me out. I even told my brother about that and how that creeped me out because of the Ben Drown stuff. And he says that maybe, this is a stretch, but maybe Jadu Sable, Alex Hall, maybe he encountered that same glitch and that's what inspired him to write the story. Like, I remember when my neighbor Brandon told me about his cartridge thing, like, I actually wanted to make a movie based on it, and then I found out about the creepypasta, and that's when I really got into this story and doing this adaptation. But yeah, like, luckily people have gotten videos of the multi-ocarina glitch. It's unfortunately I didn't get mine on video, but that was something that genuinely creeped me out, because I did not know why it was happening. I was thinking, is Ben real? Did Ben haunt my video game or something? The iconic "you shouldn't have done that" line. Sorry, Josie, I'm just petting you. Of course, I had to cut to a bit of B-roll just to remind the audience that Tyler is watching it still. And this is another kind of weird thing, because this switches to footage from Ocarina of Time. I originally thought of putting a voiceover of my character saying, "This is Ocarina of Time footage, what gives?" But I felt that was going to be spelling it out a little too much. And one thing you'll notice is, it's like, even today, the graphics in the original Majora's Mask still hold up. Kaepora Gaibora, the owl who happens to be more annoying than Navi. I remember when Legend of Link, that Zelda fan film from 2005, made the joke about Kaepora Gaipora and how Link had to get Tingle to shoot it down to help him. Ben is getting lonely. And of course, there's the Moonfield, which was foreshadowed in the artwork earlier. And this is also something like, this is already creepy enough in the original game, but having it here without the Moon Children being there is even creepier. Which, a little funny thing, everybody knows how creepy the Elegy of Emptiness statue is. I remember when I first got Majora's Mask on the 3DS, like, I did not look at any images online. I was wanting to be surprised by the Elegy of Emptiness statue. I was thinking maybe it would either be somewhere on the same creepy level as the original, or it would be toned down a bit. I was not disappointed, because let me tell you, in the 3DS remake, they managed to make the statue look even creepier than he did in the original. I mean, he's already creepy enough in the original, but in the 3DS remake, it looks really realistic. Kind of like, a wooden painted statue, like something you'd see in an old Catholic church, where it has that weird Uncanny Valley vibe to it. I am not saying that the 3DS remake is better than the original, but I can say they managed to make the statue in the 3DS remake look creepier than he already did in the original. And I was impressed by that. Like, it actually made me feel chills when I saw it. I was like, ugh, they managed to make this creepier. And of course, you have the Ikana stuff. And I remember finding out about how, Jadu Sable, as a April Fool's Day joke, did that whole King Kong video. And so I actually filmed a little Easter egg to put on the DVD based on that as a little nod. I have a little glass of water. My cat loves water and is trying to get to it, so I'm trying to keep her from drinking out of my water. She has an entire bowl upstairs and everything. I have to watch my cat. She's really old. I think she has a mild form of kidney disease, and so she drinks water a lot. I always wondered what this part of the story was about, with him going to Ikana and finding the Elegy statue. You have the Redeads. Definitely the creepiest enemy in the game. I even put them in my actual Zelda fan film. I think I associate Zelda as like the peak of inspiration for a lot of my projects. I also cite my adventures in high school marching band, because I definitely want to do film adaptations of those. Like, I have ideas for comedies based on my adventures in marching band. I just want to do them with the right people so that it doesn't get turned into this politically correct kind of crap and everything. I'm thinking of the Daily Wire as a possibility. I'm not a big fan of everything the Daily Wire does, but I think they could be a necessary evil. I definitely work with Markiplier. I wasn't really too into Markiplier stuff until I saw Iron Lung. I definitely want to do Illusion of Gaia and Shadow Man independently, but on proper budgets. And I still want to do Dreamhouse Kings. I'd probably do those with Angel Studios, so that way they stay true to Robert Liparulo's Christian themes that he has in the books, because I definitely don't want to do it with Netflix after what they're doing with Chronicles of Narnia. It's like, good God, people. And of course, there's also a science camp I went to in 2011 where I met some really cool friends. That's where I got a lot of the ideas for Mindworms, especially like filming at Lake Thoreau and everything like that. And I met a friend named Darius who is in the film, and I think he would be perfect for playing Michael Lewa in a Shadow Man movie. And when I told him about it, he was very impressed, because he loves Shadow Man and loved to play that game all the time. And he would say the "come on, slowpoke," to his friends. And he really looks the part. He really does look like Michael Lewa, so he would be perfect if we ever got him to be in a Shadow Man movie. Just the question is, should it be an adaptation of the video game, or should it be an adaptation of the comic books? That's going to be kind of difficult. Now, I'm thinking whenever I remake Mindworms, this may change, but I think I might only direct the first one, since that's the one I've wanted to do for a while, and I might have the sequels directed by somebody else. I know I'm going to do that with Imprisoned Souls. And there are projects of mine that don't have sequels because they don't need sequels. And I'm definitely going to direct all 3 of the Summerall marching band movies because they're based on my real life adventures, and so they're really personal to me. I definitely want to direct Illusion of Gaia. I would love to direct Shadow Man, but if I couldn't, I would get my friend Darius to direct it. Like, I think he could do a good job at directing it and starring in it. But, we'll still see. I definitely send him the rough draft script whenever I get it finished. I even told him about the remaster. And this part is also kind of creepy right here, too, I gotta say. Especially that whole thing of him in that effed up camera angle and him being absolutely hopeless. I think I had a dream similar to that once. Why is he smiling? The father. A little bit of foreshadowing. That's another impressive thing, is when it comes to later, whenever he looks at those videos of Vampire the Masquerade and Prototype, he mentions he doesn't remember uploading those a year ago, and then tries to rationalize it that he shared that YouTube account with a friend. So he actually had those videos uploaded a year before posting this stuff just to get that all set up, which was pretty impressive, I gotta say. I gotta say, as dated as these graphics are in games like this and Shadow Man, I have to say, these kind of graphics and limitations gave these games a lot more charm. Like, I kind of wish they would not completely destroy, but just tone down a little bit on the open world games. I know I'm not the only one to say that, but it feels like whenever things get when everything is amazing, it kind of ruins, it's kind of like what Syndrome said, when everyone's super, no one is. So that's kind of one of the things I especially hate about AI, and I could do an entire video talking about how much I hate, AI art and everything like that. Like, that's something that really needs to die down. Like, I am making it a point that I will never use AI in any of the stuff that I do. It's like, I actually respect CGI more than AI, because with CGI, you still have to get very creative with it. Because I am not anti-CG, I just think CGI can be overused a lot. Like, I'd like to do a balance, especially when doing Illusion of Gaia and Shadow Man. And of course, the marching band movies don't really need a lot of CGI because they're high school comedies. Mindworms wouldn't work with CGI because it's an 80s trash B movie similar to the works of Troma. And people would say, it makes things easier, but I don't like making things easier. I like when you put a lot of hard work and effort into it because it gives you something to look back on. If you do with AI, you just snap your fingers and it comes. Yes, that gets it easier, but at what cost? You accomplish nothing, really. And here, I decided to add this, so... Oh, and you'll see in the bloopers that my cat also had to, get my attention and everything. And this is an addition. I wanted to add this dream sequence because I wanted to do at least one movie that had this dream. But this is based on a dream I had in my senior year of grad school because I was working on my Zelda movie and playing a lot of Zelda. And so in my dream, I was in this decrepit room with all this crap and everything, and the creepy Dadango's Cavern music playing. And outside it was a bright, sunshiny day, but it looked very low poly, like that. That is intentional. Kind of like the game. And I see a Redead in the room. So this is kind of like a 95% perfect representation of that dream. This is in my basement, and this is supposed to show that Ben is assimilating Alex, and Alex will be used to assimilate other people, which is what the footage of Alex Mercer in Prototype was trying to, predict and everything. That's me as the old man. I decided to have the old man and the Redead combined, so that way it could be similar to my dream while also making sense in the story. And of course, I'm wearing my lucky jacket again. That's a badass scarecrow mask that I got. That's really cool. But yeah, that is very much a 95% accurate recreation of an actual dream that I had in my senior year of grad school. I can actually remember a lot of my dreams. I even have a dream journal detailing a lot of my dreams all the way back to whenever I was 3 years old. The earliest dream I actually had at age 3, which I had 3 times, so it was a recurring dream, was I used to be scared of the dark because I was 3. I'd wake up and the bathroom light that we use as a night light would be off, and my bed sheets would be spread all the way out into the hallway, and I'd jump down and shrink down to the size of a Lego, and I'd run in the hallway, look in the dark bathroom, and the Statue of Liberty would be on top of my sink counter. And I did that with PowerPoint, but that is based on something that happened in a dream, in the creepypasta where he hallucinated the Ben statue. But yeah, that was my earliest dream I remember having. And here he's looking out the window, and this is just shot from upstairs at our house, and that's me doubling as the old man. That happened in the creepypasta, and that's also a reference to what happened when Wes Craven looked out the window and saw the old man that inspired Freddy Krueger. And I want to make a video on that, but when it comes to the old man who inspired Freddy Krueger, the old man that Wes Craven saw at the window, I wonder if there's any census reports on people who could identify who that old man was, or if he's just lost to time and forever immortalized as Fred Krueger. I can also, a little funny lighthearted story. I remember the gayest dream I ever had in senior year of high school. I dreamed that SpongeBob and Patrick were muscular and butt naked, and they were doing like this homoerotic belly dance. After they're done, Patrick looks down, sees that he has like a man part, and he's like, "A brand new Winky." That's all the time I love my friends, and they think that they could see that actually happening on the SpongeBob series now. I once had my brother act absolutely speechless because I just randomly came to him and I was like, "Hey, Nicholas, last night I had a dream that Squidward had 2 penises." He's like, "What? What? No, just absolutely speechless." Vampire the Masquerade. My dad actually has a lot of tabletop RPGs of this. I think we might have this game on a CD. I don't know if it's the exact same one. But I do know this whole thing with Rosa is supposed to be telepathic, and so she's kind of telling the future, and this footage is supposed to be kind of like foreshadowing. And the footage of Prototype with Alex Mercer is also foreshadowing. And of course, this was uploaded on Jadu Sable's YouTube account a year ago. And so that's why he finds it weird, because he doesn't remember uploading those a year ago. In the context of the story, of course. Because this was basically an ARG. Which I do know we have a CD for a Vampire the Masquerade game. I just don't know if it's this one or not. I don't think it could work on my Mac, though, because... And I'm not even going to try it because, it's very outdated technology. And this video was age restricted for the longest time. I just noticed they have like the Jersey Boys. I actually, in my senior year of high school marching band, we actually played like a suite of the Jersey Boys music. Still have that video and everything. And of course, he's just pretending to look at it because my 2012 laptop miraculously still works, but it's not as functional as it used to be. And of course, he's now trying to rationalize it, saying that he shared this YouTube account with a friend. And he's just pretending to type there because that computer isn't even on. And here, this is another dream, and I decided to add a little more that could be interpreted. This is shot at Columbine, and I had the color correcting look weird and washed out, so that way it was similar to a David Lynch or Jan Svankmajer movie. To an extent, of course. I've delivered, I think that's Iliff, I've delivered to that building before when I worked at DU. I can see the mud building. Of course, that's a nice little night shot. And of course, you have that superimposed footage. And the superimposed footage is supposed to have some kind of meaning to it. Again, I don't want to give it away. There's Ben's childhood bedroom with the toy horse and everything. Meow. Meow. More references to The Shining, and that's reference to this close-up of the face shots in The Shining where it has a close-up of Danny's face. The faceless Moonchild. It's another part of our neighborhood cul-de-sac. And even though I don't want to give away too much, I can talk about this because this is pretty obvious, but this body of water is supposed to represent, Ben's death from how he died from drowning. And of course, he wakes up and sees that he randomly has a text file saying hi with the Cleverbot link, which happened in the creepypasta, and this is on my 2012 laptop. I just filmed that. And of course, his reaction is delayed on purpose because he's waking up, and it's kind of like you wake up and then you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like that happened once at my apartment in grad school where I woke up and I actually had like a hallucination of what looked like a ghostly woman walking into my kitchen. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. And I turned my phone line shine and no one was there. And of course I went and checked to make sure my door was locked, to make sure nobody broke in. So that was kind of weird. And of course I did some editing, some cross-editing with him typing in the Cleverbot footage, which I got from another creepypasta reading of this. This is also my first movie to use the F-bomb as much as it does. I mean, I try to keep it tastefully used, not to the point of being gaudy, but it is like the most uncensored F-bombs in any of my films I've ever done. Yeah, I first thought of having the footage on this laptop and having some over-the-shoulder shots like we did with the TV, but we just did not have the time to do that. It was actually after this day of shooting with him and Mike Keeler that I went to go see Iron Lung for the first time. Like, I highly recommend that movie. I also, the week before that, I went to go see Send Help, which is a Sam Raimi movie, because Sam Raimi is my favorite filmmaker. And I enjoyed Send Help, too. I thought that was a really enjoyable one. And, of course, with this, he had his phone, on the laptop, so that way he could see exactly what he was supposed to be saying, so it could coincide with the Cleverbot footage. There's a little bit of foreshadowing because it's supposed to seem as if he has some kind of virus or some kind of hacker, but it's also could be the ghost of Ben. Implied that Ben haunted his computer when he plugged it into the N64 with the Ben cartridge. Which that would actually be a pretty scary thing to happen. Like, I can remember I actually was kind of scared to name my file Ben back when I was younger, because that's when I believed the story to be true, but now that I know it's just a elaborate creepypasta ARG, I was able to name a file Ben. Oh, and that's also from, that footage of the reading and just having that open, was also pretty creepy thing. That would definitely be scary to happen, because it's very much like a computer virus. I've never had those before, but I've heard stories about them, and they definitely sound pretty damn creepy, I can say that. And I remember, it was actually at my grandma's house that we filmed the original Curse game. And I miss those old old-timey houses. I hate so many of the modern houses that are just stark white and look like, you know, waiting rooms of hospitals or like doctor's offices. I'd love to have an old-fashioned house with the wood paneling walls like my old house in Summerall when I was in high school. Something rustic, something masculine, something old-fashioned. I especially love to live in a house that could be potentially haunted. My childhood house during high school, I believed that house to be haunted. You okay there, Josie? She had a bit of a hiccup. Now, of course, this is him coming back from the shower, and Ben is, effing around with him pretty much, such as sending that statue and everything. And this here is footage from my 2012 laptop that I filmed on Windows Movie Maker. Because I don't think the creepypasta specified what happened in between each time he said F you, Ben, I'm not talking, so I decided to add that little photo popping up, which I think is something that Nexpo did something similar in his video. And of course, here he sees that whenever he does his post, Ben keeps censoring him, pretty much. Now, of course, I did this on PowerPoint, but that's supposed to look like a Reddit post with his Cleverbot conversation. I can see my inhaler in the background. That stuffed cat that used to be one of Lizzie, my Calico's favorite toys whenever she was alive. And so, I kind of used that as a puppet for a project I had to do, for my youth certificate program. And I've been keeping like her favorite toys as trivia. I might give them to like a new cat if I ever get like a new cat in the future. And here he's having like the last bit of conversation with Ben on Cleverbot. I would never actually use Cleverbot just because there's no telling what it could do. It's just something I don't really trust, to be honest. I mean, I have trust issues with the internet in general. Because, I mean, the internet is a useful tool, but it's also a slippery slope kind of tool. And Cleverbot, I would not go on that website for real, to be honest, because it's just, I just don't trust it. And Taylor, who plays Alex, he was really cool and really happy to be part of this project. I think he was right for the role, too. I think this was originally meant to set up the Moon cult, arc and everything, but I decided to omit the Moon cult arc and just have this revolve more around the Haunted cartridge just because it's easier and simpler. And here, that's him hearing my knocking on the door conversation, showing like the different perspective, similar to like almost like a Quentin Tarantino movie. Funny story, when I first watched Quentin Tarantino's movies, Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction in 2016, I remember like after that I went on a little trip with my church group, the Wesley Foundation. I remember having two dreams about kind of like the same thing from different perspectives, very likely inspired by Quentin Tarantino's style, which I thought that was pretty interesting. And here, this is him kind of panicking and just narrating his life. And I just use shots. You can see bits of a dead spider, like that little mark that's from a spider that I killed. And I hate spiders, so I was very cautious about that. So I still have some carcass remains of dead spiders on my wall. I'm an arachnophobe, and Luckily, my cat has eaten a few spiders that came, so that's nice that she took care of that. And I love the movie Arachnophobia, but it definitely makes my skin crawl. And of course, this is his final note, and this is when he reveals the stinger, which is that he lived in the single and never had a roommate. So that's when it's revealed really very much that Ben was the one who was pulling the strings. That's an old cell phone. That was basically my first cell phone that I got in around 2011 that I never actually used. Obviously doesn't work, but I used it to fit with the 2010 setting. And here he's finding out that Alex never went back home. And this next shot where you see him looking at the computer kind of parallels the final shot of the original Curse Game short film in a way. I don't think I consciously did it. I don't know if it was even subconscious, but it really does kind of parallel the ending of the original short film. And here he sees that Ben has given him a message on his computer saying that Alex is there. Which I thought that was a good way, because I was trying to find a way to end it that stayed true to the mythos. I think this is a good way to be a bit supernatural without being too supernatural. And of course, a final jump scare, which also mirrors the original short film. Yeah, that's what he looks like in the 3DS remake, so he actually looks even creepier. Yeah, I use this creepypasta music. I even use some music that Some Ordinary Gamers used in his old creepypasta readings, because I used to love those, and he has them on. You can find them on Some Ordinary Archives, but now Some Ordinary Gamers, Mudahar does other stuff, and my brother also watches Some Ordinary Gamers, which I think is really cool. He also watches Penguin Zero, which I watch Penguin Zero, and Actual Justice Warrior. Those are favorite YouTubers of mine. And of course, I added the special thanks. My parents, my brother, my actors, Nexpo and Creeps McPasta and Some Ordinary Gamers, Ali Alukoya because he did the short film that inspired mine, and I put Brandon in the special thanks because he got me introduced to the story. Again, despite my issues with my old neighbor Brandon, I really hope he's trying to turn his life around. I hope he gets it all turned around. I mean, the last time I saw him, he was working at a gas station, so I mean, there's that. Anyway, that was my audio commentary for An Unfriendly Game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is Patrick Reagan signing off.